Welcome back to the Elevate With Us podcast. Whether it's your first time here or you've been here before, please do me a favor and like, share, and comment with everyone you know, whether they're real estate, in the field of real estate, or an entrepreneur, or just a person. So excited to welcome back Bruce Breedlove. He is always providing us incredible information about the economy and planning and finances. So here we go. So excited to have you back.
Absolutely, anytime.
Gosh, there has been so much stuff has happened since the last time you were here.
We say that every time.
I know, for sure. Well, right now.
It seems like 3 years have happened in the last year. Would you say that?
Oh, no, I totally agree.
I feel like I'm an older man than I was a year ago.
Well, you are.
Well, I've seen some things. But anyway.
No, but we're in a constant state of flux. I feel like maybe it's age, but maybe it's our new normal. But I feel like ever since COVID, time is slow fast, right? Yeah. Like the days seem slow, and then all of a sudden a month goes by, or I don't know what happened to the entire month of September.
Well, and then a lot of stuff happens.
And then a lot of stuff. And a big thing happened in September, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you on is in real estate, everybody, or whether mortgage, real estate, everyone was super anticipating September 18th.
Yep.
Everybody was hoping for an interest rate drop. And in that, everybody was like, buy a house because mortgage rates dropped. But
yeah, the 10-year treasury actually went up. So some history. So obviously in 2020, it was COVID, supply chain issues, inflation kicked off in early 2021, 9.1%, as we've talked about on this podcast. So go watch that episode.
Yeah.
A cumulative effect of inflation of approximately 22%, as we were saying in the last episode that I was on. From 2020 to now, your dollar's worth 22% less, and that's from inflation, right? A cumulative effect of that. So inflation kicked off. In response, the Federal Reserve raised the interest rates, the central bank rates, to the highest point since the year 2000, and at the fastest rate in history, 11 rate hikes from 0 to 5.25%, okay? So what that caused is almost a slamming on the brakes, or a bucket of cold water thrown on the economy. The economy was red hot because there was easy money being given out during COVID. That's a whole other episode. Shouldn't we have done that to stimulate the economy, to prop it up, to make sure that we didn't have a massive crash? And then, low interest rates on homes. There was just being money blown into the economy.
Yep.
Inflation kicked off. We had a large piece of legislation from the government, the Inflation Reduction Act, which spent a ton of money. So we've just had, over the last 4 years, a ton of money spent in the government, and then that triggered inflation. So Federal Reserve increased interest rates, and they're taking money out of circulation to lower inflation. Last inflation report is 2.2%, which is still above the long-term mark of the Federal Reserve, which is 2%. Yeah. So
okay.
But it's from 9 to 7 to 3 to 3 over the last 4 years. Now down to 2.2.
It worked.
It worked. And we talk about the high interest rates because we're hyper fixated on interest rates.
Obsessed.
But the other thing that the Federal Reserve did is, I mentioned, they started taking money out of circulation. Because when you put more dollars in circulation, the value of those dollars go down. So that was also, that's one of the main contributors to inflation, as I just mentioned. But they're doing what's called quantitative tightening.
Okay.
So when the Federal Reserve prints money, they don't just print it and throw it into a pool or a bunch of people. They lend it out to banks, right?
Okay.
To stimulate the economy, to stimulate lending, and they do it at a low rate to stimulate the growth of business in a tough economic climate. So the opposite of that, and that's called quantitative easing. Quantitative tightening is when the Federal Reserve removes the money off of their balance sheet, as they say, or taking that money, those loans back. Once they're paid back, they don't re-lend it out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's the other thing that's been happening in the background is money's being taken out of circulation to help inflation come down. So now we're at 2.2, and like you said at the top of this, the big anticipated thing was the Federal Reserve met on September 18th, and the market consensus, if you look at betting odds, Polymarket, for anyone that's listening, is a really interesting website.
Polymarket?
Polymarket.
Okay.
Polymarket basically is you can bet on anything. If this, when this podcast gets...
you can bet on what,
you can
how
bet on
much
anything. We can bet that Kyle says bodacious 5 times, and 99% of people are going to bet against it because it's not likely to happen.
Right.
But there's 1% that is taking that flyer. But if you look at it now, pull it up. People were betting on the debate last night. I'm sure bet on everything. So Polymarket's a good way to quickly check the consensus about anything. And it's really toward like financial stuff.
I love this.
So
Okay.
yeah, so look at polymarket.com. It's really fascinating. But the reason I bring this up is the market consensus was 100% almost that a 25 basis point or 0.25% drop on September 18th was coming. So what happens when that is the case is it's already baked into the stock market. It's already baked into the 10-year treasury, which mortgage rates are based off of. Everyone had already said, oh, it's happening, right? So if it hadn't happened, you'd see mortgage rates shoot up. You'd see the stock market shoot down because there's a compelling reason that it didn't happen.
Sure,
right?
sure.
So that was already baked into all this. What we got was a 50 basis point or 0.5% rate drop. And you might think, oh, that's great. It's more than we planned on, but it actually had the opposite effect.
It did. And like, this sounds terrible, but I go to Facebook or social media to kind of see how people are responding. I mean, it's a very quick way to see where your pool of people are doing things. And I would say probably 100%, but I'll say 99.9% of realtors were like, hallelujah, the interest rates have dropped. And then every now and again, you'd see a mortgage person and they'd be like, please check with a mortgage broker, right? Like they didn't want to like be like the poo-poo to be like, and they actually went up today. Yeah. Because, realtors are hoping with lower interest rates that it'll stimulate the market. Our market is inching closer and closer to a buyer's market. I pulled the data yesterday. Yeah. We're roughly just shy of 5 months is our absorption rate.
It's a big change over the last 6-8 months to a year.
Yeah. So year over year, it depending on what county you're in, it's almost doubled, the time on the market. Yeah.
1 year. Wow.
Yeah. We had a sales meeting yesterday, and now the data's kind of skewed because I pulled it on October 1, and Realtors don't update the MLS quickly, so I would rather pull it on like the 5th or the 7th, but that's not how it happened. So, but Realtors really, really want the mortgage rates to go down because they really feel that that's going to cause or encourage buyers to buy.
Yeah.
But will it?
Yeah, well, that's a whole other conversation because affordability is a holistic way to look at should you buy a house, right?
Right.
And one of those things is interest rates, right?
Sure.
So, but the effect and the reason why you didn't see a cratering of mortgage rates is because of Jerome Powell's remarks and because of the data that was released leading up to the rate cut that gave markets actually some heebie-jeebies that we are actually in a worse economy than what was being told to us. And if you look back at that last, maybe 2 episodes ago, I said inflation has come down, but I literally said this almost verbatim, but bad things could still happen.
Sure.
And one of the bad things that could happen is, let me put this politically correct, a disconnect between what's really happening and what's being reported to us and being reported to economists. And what specifically the jobs numbers. So the jobs numbers in September came out, and the Bureau of Labor Statistics came out and revised their jobs numbers by 818,000. So
like there were 818,000 less.
Yes,
then reported it went worse.
We thought we created 818,000 jobs. More than what we really did. So when they made that revision, everyone's like, "Oh shit!" These numbers aren't looking good. Unemployment rate started going up. It hit 4.4. I think we're still around 4.3, 4.4, which 5 is like considered. Don't go above that, right?
Okay.
Inflation's coming down, which is good, but it's because like consumer confidence is shaky, and personal finances is just in shambles. Like personal debt, credit card debt hit 1.3 trillion. I mean, it's a bad state of affairs right now. So all that to say, you would think that a higher rate cut would cause mortgage rates to go down because, oh my gosh, it's now cheaper to borrow. That's not the case because the reason they did the larger cut is because Jerome Powell looked at the economy and his board looked at the economy and said, actually, we're kind of farther along in this economic cooling sort of trajectory than we thought, so we need to accelerate the rate cuts. Many people believe that they're behind in starting to cut rates. Right. Because it's not like, okay, I don't cut rates today and then it's felt all over the place. There's a lag. So we won't feel truly the rate cut for another few months or quarters. Like companies, right? It's now cheaper for Walmart to borrow money to fuel growth. I just picked them out of the air. But that doesn't reflect in your balance sheet today.
Right,
you see that a couple quarters later when you're paying, 0.50% less interest on your debt. Does that make sense?
No, it does. And if you all of a sudden I started seeing like 0% offers again, right? And I was like, ooh, this is a sign that we're not doing too well, right? Like, if I was around, and I'm sure you were, when we had like the big real estate crash, and when there was all the free things, right? There was like, because they were trying to
free things lead to inflation, though. That's the thing.
Right. Yeah. So it's like, what are we doing here? And I'm gonna ask you something. We didn't talk about this in advance, so don't get mad at me.
Never.
But I think we've been in a recession, or we have. Let me back, and I'm not an economist.
Yeah.
Recession-like tendencies. There's recession stuff. And I don't know what's preventing us from really being classified in one, because it feels like one from the last time we had one.
Well,
there's similar feelings and things out there.
Yeah. So the definition of a recession has been changed by the powers that be. Okay. And so
like the ones in there right now.
Yeah. So the definition is a reduction in GDP for, I think, 2 consecutive quarters. I think that's the definition of a recession. That happened like a year or a year and a half ago. So by definition, we were in a recession as far as like the global the gross domestic product decreasing 2 quarters in a row.
Oh, okay.
So that did happen. Now the economist's definition of a recession and the feelings people have during a recession, I think that's really what you're talking about.
Okay, probably.
Whereas people like feel it in their pocketbook,
and
I say all the time, like, people don't watch the news and hear what economists say and watch what Jerome Powell says, who's the chair of the Federal Reserve. They don't like adjust their daily spending or their plans based on what's being said. What happens in real life, and normal people, right? I'm the only nerd that does that, but normal people sort of live their life, they spend money, and then all of a sudden, when economic situations change, more months go by, and then they're like, man, I don't have as much money in my checking account. Man, weren't eggs just like $5? Now they're $8? Man, I really think like, why is my grocery cart so expensive? This is what I always get. That's what ends up happening. So it's even more of a lag than to where people feel it compared to like when economic changes happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so
no, absolutely.
I think that people have been feeling for the last 12 months, since Q3 of 2023, a recession on Main Street, like in their pocketbooks, and and so, but people that are investing, like I said last time I was here, the S&P 500 is up 22% this year. So again, it's the tale of 2 Americas: the investor versus the non-investor.
Correct.
And if you want to learn more about that, go to our last episode that I was on.
Yeah.
But I agree with you that people personally are acting like, and personal finance is in a recession type situation. Yes.
So I was talking to somebody, and they have a friend that's into studying the economy and whatnot. They're not an official economist.
I'm not either. But
this is really interesting. I haven't stopped thinking about it since he told me, is that this person follows the food market as a judge of recession-like behaviors, and an increase in buying sausage products because they're cheaper, but it's still a protein source, is an indicator of what the economy is doing. And there's a huge increase in people buying sausage
everywhere, just
for
all
protein.
over the place. Wow.
Because it's cheaper. Wow. And that was so profound to me, that we're filled with indicators of certain things happening. Mm-hmm. And that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, it does.
Because if you've got to, eat protein for whatever reason, you got to feed a whole family, and you're like, we'll just buy fucking hot dogs, right? Because it's cheaper.
Is a hot dog a type of sausage?
I decided it was.
Fall under the sausage
to
umbrella?
Me, it does.
Okay.
I mean, I don't really know the definition, but to me, it does. But if you're going to buy that instead of chicken because it's cheaper, it makes a lot of sense to me that everyone is feeling the pinch in their pocketbook.
Yep.
I mean, everybody.
So there's also 2 other indexes that are funny. The lipstick index, and I think you can Google that, where people buy less expensive like beauty items. Oh, same thing. It's a leading indicator. And they're also like a adult performer stripper index, where if you go in and survey strip clubs across the country, they report making less tips as a leading indicator.
Way.
Yeah,
that's
really
interesting.
So we got the sausage, the strippers, and the lipstick. Oddly, those all go together.
I know. I was thinking to say it's like very strange. That's really
one industry.
That's really interesting. So if you haven't tuned in before, please do, because Bruce is always giving us such great nuggets. So let's go back to personal finances, because I think that the majority of Americans are a disaster sauce.
Yeah.
Right. We've got tons and tons of debt. No one's saving. And a lot of it's because they can't, right? Yeah. They're only one income, or they're 2 income. They're not entrepreneurs. They're not digging deep, unfortunately. What do they do?
Well, it's sort of like I mentioned, things happen in the economy and then people feel it later because they're not intentional. So what we see, and we've helped at this point, I think we just hit 60 families this week.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
So the growth over the last year, we've almost helped people pay off $500,000 of debt. We're now at over $2.5 million invested. So this is, those numbers I've been quoting every time I'm here have really gone up. So I feel like I have a decent pulse on personal finance.
Absolutely.
So when people come to us, they have just spent their time spending based on emotion and not based on intention, okay? And when it comes to a head is when spending with emotion, you start to feel it, right? Again, like your bank account has less money, you just start to feel this crunch, right? And we're there, we're definitely there. So I think people's natural tendency is not to save. I think it's abnormal for someone to have a savings type tendency.
Really?
Other than spending. Yeah, because think about it. Look around. Like, we're bombarded with advertisements. It's about buying things. It's about experience. It's about consumerism.
Right.
It's about having the newest car, the newest phone, all that. And so it's easy. It's a lot sexier to get caught up in that, and a lot easier too than to get caught up and say, I need to save this much a month, or I have this financial goal. Also, there's a huge knowledge deficit, right, of actually how to do it. So I think we're at the point in 2024 where you have no choice but to be intentional about saving money, and the way you save money is either make more or spend less, right?
Right.
So you have to intentionally do both of those things because things have gone up so much in cost, and wages have not kept up. So that gap between what you make and what you spend has gotten smaller, and that's what's causing the crunch. So my advice, when I came here in January, it was how to win with money in 2024. Yep. Spoiler alert, that was the same thing I was saying in 2023. You have to first look at where every dollar's going. Like I've said this again and again and again. If you've watched this, you've heard me. You have to first look at every single line item, look where every dollar is going, because you're going to find wasted spending. It just happens because we spend with emotion. Go ahead.
So when you meet with people, because I meet with people all the time, and they're, no, I can't do that, right? So you meet with someone, and they're like, there is no way we could save money, and there's no way we could get out of debt.
I say, there's not been one person that's ever told me that I have not proved them wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. So where do you find people spend the most money? Is it like at Starbucks?
Well, it's the big three. It's transportation, it's food, and it's housing. Those are the big three.
So like transportation, like you drive a car that needs gas and you decide that it's a good idea to buy an electric vehicle?
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring, I actually crossed that out on my list to bring up. I wasn't going to, anyway, that's for the bonus episode.
I did that.
But it's eating out. Eating out's an easy one. And it's
eating out.
Subscriptions. Oh, I forgot I signed up for this. And also one thing that we pick on a lot is phone bill. Like, if you're still spending $200-300 a month for your phones, you're way behind. Cricket Wireless, Mint Mobile, they use the same infrastructure, the same towers that the big ones do, and they're a fraction of the cost. I've been using Cricket Wireless since 2015, and I make calls just like everyone else here does.
It does work. I do call you sometimes. Your phone, and you get text messages.
I do. Yeah,
and
especially.
You can FaceTime if needed.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it works.
Yeah.
I'm just teasing.
And especially realtors, agents that are in our class are like, well, I'm a realtor, so I need to be able to take calls. Duh. So I don't know. I want to stick with Verizon.
But I don't take calls.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You didn't just speak to me on the phone a couple days ago. No. And I'm, but there's most people don't take a magnifying glass and look at their spending. Most people never do that because it's not sexy to do, especially in a relationship.
Well, let's be honest. They don't want to know what they're spending money on, do they? Like, do you really want to know?
No,
I don't.
No, they don't, because they're afraid of accountability to especially if someone in the back of their mind I know, especially in the back of their mind knows they're in trouble. A lot of people, there's this mental sort of leap they have to do to actually look at it. Like, they know there's an issue, but they don't want to they're not uncomfortable enough to do what it takes to get out of it.
But really, I think there's a lot of people that never get uncomfortable enough. They just file for bankruptcy, right? And they just are in the same boat again. Like, they never learn from their mistakes, right? Yeah. If you have a job and you are living within your means, you should never not have money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, that's my thesis, at least.
It sounds so simple.
And I think that obviously there are situations where life happens, people get sick.
Oh,
jobs
yeah, I'm not
are lost.
talking about that.
And so, I mean, even people in our class who've been in our class for a couple months pay off their credit cards, and they've got, their checking account built up to have 30 days of expenses in it, and they're automating everything. And then we just had a couple that we talked to last night lost a job, and then the other one got fired all in a month.
Oh, shoot.
And so they drained their savings account. Their checking account. They ended up accruing a little bit of debt, but we have a plan to get them out within the next 35, 45 days.
Right.
So, the original question is, we're sort of in a time where people feel the crunch, personal finances in the dump, and people are struggling. So the first step is getting your arms around your spending, because if it's the easiest thing. It's harder to snap your fingers and say, oh, I want to make more money today. It's easier to snap your fingers and say, I'm going to spend less money today. It's something you can do now, and it's just the easiest. It's the lowest hanging fruit.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think it's the hardest.
Emotionally, yeah. Sometimes it is.
Because we've talked about that. People have an emotional attachment to money or spending or buying or whatever it is that's generally what's causing them to overspend. It's
the emotional attachment to the level of carefree that they can have in their life to just do what they want to do and not have to justify it. And that's like really been refined in me over the last few years of coaching people about money. It's like, especially people who have never, or in their 40s, 50s, who have never paid attention. It's a huge mental leap for them to get to that point where I need to not do this today. I need to not get my nails done, or not cancel this gym membership that I never use. It's just that it's sort of the acknowledgement of hey, I really have to make a change.
Yeah, I mean, and change is so hard. Right? Change is so hard. Old habits die hard, big time. So if this is speaking to somebody, they're I'm in financial trouble. How do they find you?
Yeah, so we're everywhere. I mean, I go everywhere. I'm invited to podcasts, interviews. I'm on the radio every few weeks now.
You're on the radio?
Yeah, right. I'm a radio guy.
Wow.
I've been lucky enough. I mean, you are one of my day ones, just to be people have seen the value that I can bring to their people, to their platform, whatever, and I just get invited to whatever, and I will literally come anywhere, do any interview. But so you can look up any of that content, Google me, but our website is alignmoneymastery.com, and what you'll find there is what we've learned about teaching people about money. Me almost a decade, but since Align has been formed since early 2023. Like I said, we've helped people pay off almost $500,000 of debt. It's so crazy to say.
It's incredible.
$60,000 of interest, and we've made a fraction of that as revenue in the business, just so everyone knows. So it's a startup, but no, alignmoneymastery.com. What you'll find there again is a pop-up. It'll say book a free 30-minute financial audit with us, and we call it a financial audit because over the phone in 30 minutes, we'll do a diagnosis of your situation and tell you exactly how we can help. There's been plenty of people that I've done that with and say, we can't help you for lots of reasons. I've told 2 people now in the last 12 months, I can't help you right now. I will not take money from you. You have to do something drastic, like sell your house, sell a car. I will not work with you because I don't, you're not in a position where you can even pay us $100 a month to be coached.
Wow.
Because you're that tight. But I don't just say, oh, I can't help you, I'm not going to do anything. I say, do this.
You provide them solutions.
Absolutely. Because at the end of the day, whether you work with us or not, I mean, I would love for everyone to work with us. If we get 1% of the population, we'll be the most successful personal finance company ever.
Right.
And so I care about people. I want to help them. I believe at my core that everyone needs to know what I know. So at the end of that 30 minutes, we tell you exactly how we can help, what we would do if we were in your shoes, knowing what we know, and then walk away with a plan to either work together or not. And so that's what you find on the website. I'm on Instagram. I'm everywhere. So I mean, any platform you can find me on.
And what do the plans look like? Is it one-stop shopping? Is it you really need a lot of help platform?
Yeah.
Need a medium amount of help. And then if you've already gone through your platform, do you have step 2?
Yeah. So the Align was formed because one of our good friends reached out via email and just said, hey, I see what you guys are doing. I see you guys are building wealth, doing well. I would love for you just to teach me what you're doing. His name's Clay Manley. He is the reason why Align was formed, really.
Oh, my gosh.
He was the catalyst. And I had, at that point, realized that I had given my time away for free for so long, just helping people budget and whatever when they wanted it, that they valued the advice as much as they paid for it, which is nothing. And a lot of them would never do anything that I asked him to do. No, because it's hard, right? So I had agreed with myself that I'm going to sort of stop doing this for free. And then he messaged us, and I said, listen, I'll teach you. I literally sent him just an email with bullet points. I'll teach you this. I can teach it to you in 90 days, and it'll cost you $750. He Venmo'd us right there.
Wow,
so I'm like,
that's
oh shit,
so powerful.
We have a business now.
Were you like,
Well, I was like, wow, like people actually, and I think
Stay tuned for part 2 of this Elevate With Us podcast.